Good afternoon and welcome to our regular council meeting of Monday, January 9th, 2023. I'll call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. First order of business is land acknowledgement. The town of Coaldale acknowledges that we are gathered on the lands of the Blackfoot peoples of the Canadian Plains and pays respect to the Blackfoot peoples past, present, and future while recognizing their cultural heritage, beliefs, and relationship to the land. The town of Coaldale is also home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. Agenda item 1.2, conflict of interest declaration, pecuniary and non-pecuniary. Are there any in the room this afternoon? Councillor Sailer.
I have a non-pecuniary with item 13.1. Twisted Steel is listed as a stakeholder, and since I'm also leasing space, I don't think I should vote on another leasee's lease.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to acceptance of the agenda for the regular council meeting of January 9th, 2022, or I'm sorry, I got the wrong date on it, 2023. Are there any additions to the agenda? See none, can I get someone to make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented? Deputy Mayor Pickering, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 3.1, adoption of previous minutes from our regular council meeting that was held on December 12th, 2022. Are there any errors or omissions in the minutes? Councillor Beekman.
Thank you, Mayor. On page 3, item 4.1, Councillor Abrey requested a recorded vote, but there's no record of the 5-2 vote on that particular item.
Just maybe I could be asked. That was going to be my question, Mayor, and to Councillor Beekman's point. The reason I'm asking it too is because the same motion has happened again right away.
Right.
And so then they had the recorded vote. So my question would be, did we vote on it and then we voted again with a recorded vote, or how did that work?
Yeah, I believe Councillor Abrey requested a recorded vote for all 4 votes.
Right, okay, so it's just duplicated here without the...
Right, but that vote was a 5-2 vote. The other 3 were 4-3s.
Oh, right, okay, yeah. This is 23 to 25 budget, operating budget, and the next one is 23 to 27. Okay.
Okay, we're good. Yeah. Any other errors or omissions? Thank you. Can I get someone to make a motion to adopt the regular council meeting minutes from December 12th as amended? Councillor Reese, any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 4.1, business arising from the minutes. We have the 2023 quarterly coffee project, schedule change, and featured departments. We have our manager of government relations, Jonathan Wensveen, presenting. Jonathan, when you're settled in, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. So the purpose of this item, staff report, is to essentially recommend that council first reschedule the first quarterly coffee of the year to Saturday, January 21st from Saturday, January 14th, and that's essentially just due to holiday scheduling and letting people get back into more of a routine before we hold a public event. And it also will give administration a bit of time to promote the event online to raise awareness. And then the second purpose of this report is to present a proposed list of featured departments at each subsequent quarterly coffee event. So you'll see that we have corporate services scheduled for the first one, assuming that it will be rescheduled to January 21st, operations on March 25th, community services on May 27th, and the CAO/administration on September 23rd. And there's some rationales behind each one of those. We decided to schedule corporate services first, coming off the heels of the recently adopted and approved operating and capital budgets. So if people have questions or concerns about that, they can raise it with you at the first quarterly coffee. And then March 25th will be operations. It kind of falls in line with the transition from snow removal services into street sweeping for the spring. May 27th will be community services, so residents have a chance to discuss upcoming summer events, Canada Day, Summerfest, etc. And then September 23rd will be the CAO and administration, because that kind of falls in line with strategic planning for the next year. And so it will offer residents a chance to have some input on that as well. Quarterly coffees are essentially a new public engagement project that council's approved since the summer, and these will basically give residents a chance to dialogue with members of council, members of different departments on issues related to each featured department. And so this is part of the communications action plan that was approved in July. And yeah, this is a little bit more meat on the bones. So with that, I'll leave it to council for any questions.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Jonathan? So from a council perspective, if we send out an invite to members of council and if we end up with a couple, three, is that okay? Or you just want to have one? Or?
Yeah, so I kind of left that open. It'll depend on all of your schedules, who's available that day. But, I would think that maybe one or two at each given event would be fine. I think the way it was originally written was a member of council,
Right.
But I think it can be members as well. So,
Okay, thank you. Any further questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you for putting that staff report together. I'm looking for a motion that council direct administration to reschedule the January 14th, 2023 quarterly coffee to January 21st. Further, that council approve featuring corporate services at the January 21st, 2023 and quarterly coffee on March 25th. We have operations and community services at the May 27th and the CAO / administration at the September 23rd, 2023 quarterly coffee. Anybody care to sponsor that motion? Councillor Beekman? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Well, that was easy, John. Thank you. Okay, moving on to agenda item 8.1 under new business. We have coffee shop draft expression of interest for the Civic Square Atrium. We have our Recreation and Community Services Director, Russ Tanner, presenting. Russ, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate the time to present this item. The purpose of the report in front of you is to inform Council concerning the request for expression of interest for coffee shop services and food and beverage services in the newly developed Civic Square Atrium. Further, to provide Council with an opportunity to provide feedback concerning the RFI, and then also to look at assigning up to 3 councillors to be associated with the evaluation committee for the expression of interest. The space has been developed specifically for this type of business and helps the overarching business plan for Civic Square. The space has high potential to attract future stakeholder due to the nature of the foot traffic that will be happening in that area, in that space, in that location, and the level at which the space has been developed with services. Civic Square is projected to become a hub of activity in the coming years. An outdoor plaza type landscaping is currently being designed and planned to be built in 2023. The outdoor space will play host to all sorts of year-round activities, and one of the most unique features being the refrigerated ice surface capable of having ice for leisure skating 6 months a year. Group that together with the event venue capabilities that will exist in the atrium, the business opportunities become very rare. As part of the obligation to the public, the town will be accepting expression of interests to obtain the most suitable company to provide coffee shop and beverage services within the fully serviced space. And so as both options and recommendation, we recommend that council provide any additional direction to administration be included in the request for expression of interest prior to its submission, and then council will sign up to 3 councillors to evaluate.
Thank you. Just a question from myself on this staff report. You start off calling it a request for interest, and then the attachment you refer to it as a request for proposal. So which one is it?
So there can be a little bit of discussion with that. There was a discussion. You could go either way. Certainly, it ends up being oftentimes the same conversation in the end. However, I guess if you're asking me the difference between the two, I'd say that an RFI may, if there's lower interest come out of an RFI, it may see that negotiations of the final lease being at the lower end of the fair market value. Whereas if you do an RFP, then you're creating competition right off the bat, and it holds the proposal oftentimes to that competitive market value, and so you could end up. But that is only if there's low interest. If there's high interest, then it does the same thing. So I could go either way. Certainly the draft document was an RFP. However, in discussing things with our CAO, in the past we have used the RFI templates, and we're going to propose that as an option.
Okay, well, thanks for the clarification, and I'll leave it up to you however you want to send it out. And one other question I have for the service counter, is that going to match the reception counter that's currently in the Civic Square then? Are they going to be able to do what they want to do?
Yeah, so part of the proposal process, and the reason why you'll see that it's actually left pretty open there, is to be able to negotiate those things. Somebody coming into that space is going to certainly have requirements on the inside of that, but we would certainly expect that we can, just like in situations where communities are building space and putting architectural controls, we'll have some ability to work with them. That would certainly be our hope, would be that it matches the space, likely theirs as well. So to answer that question, we will have opportunity to be able to steer that in the right direction.
Thank you. Kaylin?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add a couple of points with respect to whether it's an RFI or an RFP. Whichever of the two terms is utilized, each document will have the standard boilerplate clauses that protects the town, allows us to reject all proposals if none are satisfactory. Basically, we get the best of both worlds. We get to see what's out there. We get to negotiate with multiple parties. We also have the ability to not commit to any of the proponents in the event it doesn't meet the expectations of council and the business plan. So you have, as a council, max flexibility to see what's out there. And sometimes in cases like this, if you don't like any of the requests, sometimes it's a matter of having to retool the language of the marketing document and then reposting it to see if perhaps you get a different, a wider response. So we did design it to maximize our flexibility. Because at this stage, it's difficult to predict what kind of response there ultimately will be.
And where will this be posted?
That's a good question. So there's a number. We definitely, because it would be a local situation, we'd use the papers. We'd use our own website and social media, but we'd also look at Lethbridge as well. And any other thoughts out there? Usually when we do an RFI or RFP or tender or anything, we'll also put on for purchasing connections. So
That would be a good one too. Okay, thank you. And then as part of the staff report, Russ is looking for 3 members of council to sit on the review committee. I would like to participate if no one else would like to. And Councillor Reese, you indicated you had interest as well. Is there anybody else that wanted to? Councillor Beekman? Okay. So we'll have Councillor Beekman, Councillor Chapman, Councillor Reese, and I might come and sit on that as well. So any other questions, comments? Councillor or Deputy Mayor Pickering?
Thank you, Mayor Van Ryn. So on this proposal, will they have set hours that they'll be running this, or
So we do ask for that information. That's a really good question. We ask for that information within the proposal to kind of see what they're looking at doing. But then there's a negotiation of the contract, because one of the expectations we put in the proposal is that they also have the ability to service the events that happen in that space. And so there's in situations where we're in rec centers or public space, oftentimes there's two schedules. There's a schedule of regular operation, and then there's a schedule of event operation. We'd be pushing that direction. That would be a negotiation and a proposal or an expression of interest.
Okay.
Kayla?
Just as a point of clarification, the intent would not be to utilize the space outlined in the diagram in the attached RFP as a commercial kitchen. In the event there is food, it would be more of that smaller scale snack type options. This wouldn't be a full-blown commercial kitchen. The space isn't designed for that type of purpose. It doesn't have the proper infrastructure to accommodate that. And so if we're looking at having the vendor provide services for special events, say on Saturdays, if it's a wedding, it would be more in that beverage area. We aren't looking at exclusivity when it comes to catering.
Okay.
Yeah, that helps.
Thank you for that. That's a good point.
Councillor Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor. Through to Russ, I believe that this is basically the template that you'll be using for the RFI and RFP. So I guess maybe from my perspective, under notes and general requirements, just a couple of things that I kind of highlighted here. And one is the concession area and immediate atrium sitting area. Is that very clearly defined as to what that sitting area would be?
Well, it becomes more defined when you're dealing with somebody in their service, and whether it's a just strictly coffee shop or whether it's a cafe type situation. And as that becomes defined, the reason you put that in there is because there's not regular hourly janitorial services happening at that location as we speak from a public perspective. And so all of a sudden it becomes on them. It's very common when you're looking at Jugo Juice at the Corvette today, when you're looking at Fruitus at the JBS Canada Center, those places to have that in there. And then you clearly define which space is always set up for their day-to-day operations. And then you clearly define that that's their space to look after cleaning.
Okay, it just didn't sound too clear at this perspective from this initial look at it. And of course, when you know that the large atrium area seems to be, but can be an area where people would purchase their items and then take it to another area in the atrium to eat or whatever. And so, it can cause some issues, I would think. It's just
Can I just address that?
Yeah.
So, because maybe to help kind of paint the picture a little bit better is that there would only be certain tables set up on a regular basis for that to happen. When you have large events and things, that's when you set up the rest of the space for the most part, so that you don't have that cross-contamination.
Okay, thank you. Second question is the monthly lease. That's what you're looking at rather than a longer term. You would be looking at a monthly.
We're asking them to express to us what they think fair market value is, but that could be put together in whatever shape we'd see fit. Generally speaking, it normally is a monthly.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? I'll be looking for someone to sponsor a motion that council direct administration to proceed with the posting of the RFP for beverage services as submitted, appointing councillors Reese, Beekman, Chapman, and Mayor Van Ryn to the evaluation committee. Can I get someone to sponsor? Councillor Reese. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Russ. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 10.1, council and committee reports. We have Councillor Jordan Sailer will be giving a verbal update on community futures. Jordan, the floor is yours.
So Community Futures is a lending organization that helps entrepreneurs get started. They'll work with individuals who might not have all the requirements that are needed to go to a regular bank. They also have a lot of great services to help you get started. Can't really talk directly about what we're working on since it's dealing with people's businesses and their money and things like that, but I did want to just talk about some of their services that they have. If you know anybody who is looking to start a business and they're not really sure where to get going, Community Futures is a great place to start. They'll help you to write a business plan. They'll help you to show you what you're going to need to deal with the banks, and they can even get you that loan through them if you can't deal with a regular bank. They have online digital squad to help you if you need to learn how to do your social media posts and things like that. And they have a lot of these great services that are free. So if you know anybody or anyone listening knows anybody who is interested in starting a business but doesn't know where to go, I highly recommend reaching out to Community Futures. They have a lot of great resources to help you along the way. And then they could even lend you money. They have small in-house loans as well. If you know somebody who has a current business, they could do up to $25,000 to help you with business improvements and things like that as well. So if you know anybody that's looking, I highly recommend that you reach out and talk to Community Futures.
So Jordan, can you speak a little bit to if a business on Main Street wants to do something on the outside, put new signage up, or?
Yeah, that's exactly, that'd be a great place to go, would be Community Futures. I sit on the chamber board as well, so we've had Community Futures come down to talk with our local chamber about those type of loans. And so you can get a $25,000 loan where I don't remember if we still have this one going, I'd have to double check, but the municipality actually pays the interest back for you.
That's still in place.
That's still, yeah, so the municipality, so anybody on Main Street or around there that just wants to do some beautification and things like that, awesome way to do it. Get that loan, no interest, and then you're gonna help to bring in some more customers, but kind of giving that facelift to your business.
Has that expanded into the industrial park too, or just Main Street?
I would have to double check on that, I'm not sure.
Because there was some talk about opening that up a little bit more.
Yeah.
I remember having the conversation, and I'd like to be able to say that we expanded the boundaries to include properties outside of Main Street, just given that the level of uptake at the time had waned. But I would have to confirm just to be 100%.
I'd have to confirm as well, I can't remember.
Jordan can look into that.
Yeah.
I can report that. Any questions for Jordan? Okay, well, thank you very much. Could I get someone to make a motion to adopt the verbal report on Community Futures and Councillor Sailer as information? Deputy Mayor Pickering, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to correspondence, 11.1 on the agenda. Received from the R.C.M.P. Deputy Commissioner regarding the Citizens on Patrol program that was dated December 5th. And the Citizens on Patrol, we're going to have a update at our next meeting in January with Tom Anderson and Kimberly and Kyler Short are going to be here to discuss that further. So any questions, comments on the Deputy Commissioner's letter? Seeing none, could I get someone to make a motion that Council receive the R.C.M.P. correspondence as information? Councillor Sailer, all those in favor? Carried unanimously, thank you. Moving on to information items, 12.1, the Chinook Arch Library Board Report dated December 1st, 2022. Any questions, comments on that one? Councillor Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor, and just through members of council. Mayor and Reeves met on Friday at the Chinook Regional Library, Arch Library boardroom, and the new board chair is former member of council, Vic Mensch, and so they updated the mayors and Reeves on this same report, so just for information as well.
Okay, thank you. Can I get someone to make a motion that we receive the Chinook Arch Library report as information? Councillor Chapman, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to information item 12.2, the Coaldale Library newsletter and the January-February 2023 calendar. Any questions, comments on that one? Seeing none, can I get someone to make a motion that we receive the Coaldale Library newsletter and calendars as information? Councillor Beekman, all those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. That concludes the open portion of this afternoon's council meeting. I'll be requiring a motion that council move to go into closed session at 5:25 p.m. in accordance with section 197-4-B of the Municipal Government Act to discuss matters exempt from disclosure for items 13.1, 13.2, and 13.4, subject to section 16, business interests of a third party. Item 13.2, subject to section 21, intergovernment relations. Item 13.3, subject to section 19, confidentiality evaluations. And item 13.4, subject to section 17, personal privacy. Could I get someone to sponsor that motion, please? Councillor Sailer, any discussion? All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. And we'll take a 5-minute break.